I never thought I'd live to see the day my own son would be ashamed of me. But life, it seems, has a cruel way of teaching you who you raised and who you really lost along the way. My name's Robert, though to most people around here, I'm just the old mechanic down the road. I've lived in this small town my whole life. Fixed cars, raised a family, buried my wife. And when she passed, all I had left was my boy Daniel. He was my pride, my reason to wake up in the morning. I worked 2 jobs so he could go to college, sold my truck to pay his tuition. When he got that scholarship, I felt like I'd won the lottery. When he graduated, I stood in the back of the crowd, cheering louder than anyone. But somewhere along the way, Daniel started changing. His calls became shorter. His visits rarer. He said city life was busy, that work was demanding, but deep down I knew my son was slipping away. Still I held on. Every month, I'd write him letters, the old-fashioned kind, with pen and paper, telling him about home, about his mother's garden still blooming, about the cat that refused to leave his old room. He never wrote back. Not once. Then one morning my neighbor, Mrs. Collins, came running to my porch with her phone out. "Robert," she said, "out of breath. Look, your boy's getting married." And there it was, a social media post. Daniel in a suit, standing beside a beautiful young woman in white. Engagement photos, smiles wider than the sun, hundreds of comments, thousands of likes, but not one word to me. No call, no invitation, nothing. My hands started trembling as I scrolled. That ache, it started in my chest and spread through my whole body. Not anger, not at first, just confusion. Why wouldn't he tell me? Why would he keep this from me? I tried to reason with myself. Maybe it was all happening fast. Maybe the invitations hadn't gone out yet. Maybe he just forgot. A father's heart is always ready to forgive, even when it's breaking. So I called him that night. "Danny," I said, forcing a smile he couldn't see. "Congratulations, son. I saw the pictures. You're getting married, huh?" There was a long pause. Then his voice, cold, distant. "Dade, I was going to tell you, but it's complicated." "Complicated?" I laughed nervously. "Son, weddings are supposed to be complicated. That's what makes them memorable. Dade, please don't start. It's just better if you don't come." I froze. "What did you say?" "I said it's better if you stay home. The guest list is tight. It's going to be small." Mostly her side. Or small, her side. "Better if I stay home." That was his polite way of saying, "You're not welcome." "Daniel," I said quietly, "I'm your father. I know Dad. But she doesn't really get along with older people. And, well, it's been years since we've seen each other. It might be awkward." Awkward. The word hit me like a slap. He was ashamed of me. Ashamed of the grease under my nails, my old pickup, my cheap suit. Ashamed of the man who gave him everything. "All right," I said finally, voice breaking. "If that's what you want. Dade, it's not like that." But I hung up. I sat there for a long time that night, staring at the photo of him and that smiling bride-to-be. Her face looked familiar, but I couldn't place it. Something about her eyes, they pulled at a memory, faint and distant. I pushed the thought aside. Maybe I was just overthinking. All I knew was that my son, my flesh and blood, didn't want me at his wedding. The next few weeks passed in silence. Every morning, I'd wake up hoping he'd call and say, "Dad, I changed my mind. I want you there." But that call never came. Then one day I got a letter. Not from Daniel, but from an old friend, a man I hadn't heard from in nearly 2 decades. It was addressed to Robert Miller. Inside was just a short note, written in shaky handwriting. "You should know who your son is marrying. Before it's too late." No signature. No return address. Just those words. My heart started racing. I looked again at that engagement photo. Her smile, her face, those hauntingly familiar eyes. And suddenly it hit me. I knew that woman. Not from Daniel's life. From mine. And when I remembered who she was, my entire world stopped. That night, I couldn't sleep. The letter lay open on my kitchen table, the words burning into my eyes. "You should know who your son is marrying. Before it's too late." I turned on the old desk lamp and pulled out the printed engagement photo I'd saved. Daniel in a crisp gray suit. His fiancée, tall, graceful, with chestnut hair and soft brown eyes. Those eyes, I leaned closer, tracing the edges of the picture with my trembling fingers. I'd seen them before, years ago. My heart pounded as my mind drifted back to a time when I was still married. when Daniel was just a teenager and my wife, Clara, was still alive. We used to take in foster kids occasionally, not for money, but because Clara had a heart too big for this world. There was one girl, though, that I could never forget. Her name was Lily. She came to us when she was 15, quiet, polite, eyes full of secrets. Her parents had died in an accident, and she'd been bouncing from one foster home to another. Clara took to her immediately. She'd make her cocoa at night, brush her hair, buy her clothes. Daniel, well, he was 17 at the time, and I could see it in the way he looked at her. That teenage fascination that turns into something dangerous if not guided right. I remember warning him. "Danny," I told him, "Lily's had a hard life. She needs stability, not confusion. Don't play with her feelings." He'd blush, wave me off, and swear nothing was happening. But I wasn't stupid. I saw the late-night talks in the kitchen, the secret smiles, the way he'd walk her to school even when he had the flu. Then one night, Lily disappeared. No note, no goodbye. Just gone. Clara was heartbroken. She called every shelter, every foster office. Nothing. It was like Lily had vanished off the face of the earth. A week later, I found Daniel sitting on the porch in the dark, crying. He wouldn't tell me why. He just kept saying. She didn't even say goodbye. And then, time went on. Life moved forward. Lily became just another ghost in our family's story. Until now. Now here she was, standing beside my son, smiling in a wedding dress. Older, yes, but unmistakable. Those eyes, that dimple when she smiled, it was her. I sank into my chair, my breath shallow. Why didn't Daniel tell me? Did he even remember who she was? Or worse, did he remember all too well? 1,000 questions tore through my mind. How did they find each other again? Did she ever tell him why she left? Did she know who I was? But most of all, why the hell did someone send me that note? The next morning, I drove into the city. It had been years since I'd left town, but I still remembered the address on Daniel's college forms. I figured I'd start there. Maybe his neighbors could tell me where he'd moved. But as I turned onto Maple Street, I saw something that stopped me cold. There, parked outside a modern apartment complex, was Daniel's car, and right beside it, Lily. She was standing by the door, talking to a delivery driver, same brown eyes, same calm smile. Only now, her left hand glittered with an engagement ring. I didn't approach her. I couldn't. Instead, I sat in my truck, hidden behind a row of cars, watching. She looked happy, peaceful even. But there was something in her eyes that day, something I hadn't noticed in the photo. A flicker of fear. She kept glancing over her shoulder like she was expecting someone, or avoiding someone. After a few minutes, she went inside, and I stayed there, gripping the steering wheel, trying to make sense of it all. Then my phone buzzed. A message. From an unknown number. "You shouldn't have come here. Let it go." My blood ran cold. Who was this? How did they know I was there? I texted back. "Who is this? What do you want from me?" No reply. Just silence. I started the engine and drove home, but my mind was racing the whole way. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. By the time I reached my house, it was past midnight. I poured myself a drink, sat on the porch, and stared at the stars. The same stars Daniel used to point at as a boy. Back then, he'd say, "Dad, when I grow up, I'll build you a big house so you never have to work again." And I'd laugh. "Just promise me you'll always visit your old man." Funny how promises fade with time. The next morning, I decided to stop wondering and start finding answers. I called the only person who might still know Lily's past. Margaret, the social worker who handled her foster case all those years ago. To my surprise, she picked up on the first ring. "Robert Miller," she said, her voice soft with age. It's been a long time. Margaret, I need your help. It's about Lily, the girl who stayed with us in 2005. Do you remember her?" There was a long pause.
Yes, I do.
"Why?" She's marrying my son." Silence. Then I heard her breath catch. "Oh, dear God. What is it, Margaret?" "Robert, you don't understand. Lily isn't who you think she is. And if your son's marrying her, you need to stop it." My hand tightened around the phone. "What are you talking about?" She hesitated. "I can't tell you over the phone. Too risky. Just meet me tomorrow. Same place you used to bring donations for the foster kids. 10 a.m. And then she hung up. I sat there frozen. Her tone, the fear, the urgency. It wasn't about gossip or scandal. It was something deeper, something dangerous. As I stared out the window, my reflection looked back at me. Tired eyes, wrinkled face, years of hard labor etched into every line. But beneath that I saw something else. A father who'd lost everything once already, and was about to lose it all again, and for the first time in years I prayed. Not for forgiveness, not for peace. I prayed that whatever truth was waiting for me, I'd be strong enough to face it. Morning came heavy. That kind of gray dawn where even the birds sound unsure if they should sing. I barely slept, my mind circling the same question like a trapped bird. What secret could be so bad that a social worker still feared it 20 years later? At exactly 90:45, I drove to the old community center, the one where Clara and I used to drop off boxes of toys for foster kids. The paint was peeling now, the playground rusted, but the memories clung to that place like ivy. Margaret was already there, waiting by the steps. Her hair had gone white, her eyes smaller but still sharp as ever. She wore a brown coat and kept glancing around like she didn't want to be seen. "Robert," she whispered when she saw me. "You shouldn't have come here." "Then why call me?" I asked. She sighed and looked over her shoulder. "Because your son's about to make the biggest mistake of his life." I felt the chill run through me. "Tell me what's going on." She hesitated, then opened her old leather bag. From it, she pulled out a thin manila folder, its corners yellowed with age. "Label L-O-V-E-O-R-N-E over the A-L. I kept this," she said quietly, because something about her case never sat right with me. The system buried it. Too quickly. I reached for it, but she held it tight. "Before you look, promise me you'll listen to everything." "I'm listening." She drew in a breath. When Lily first came into foster care, she was 15, yes, but what the records didn't say was why. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Her foster father, the man before you, wasn't just abusive. He was dangerous. Lily escaped after something terrible happened. We suspected he hurt her. But she never testified, and the case was quietly closed. I swallowed hard. I had no idea. She trusted no one, Margaret went on, until she came to your house. You and Clara treated her kindly. For the first time, she smiled again. But something changed right before she left. What changed? She got a letter. No return address. I asked her about it. She wouldn't tell me who it was from. The next day, she vanished. My chest tightened. You think that letter had something to do with it? I don't think, Robert. I know. She pulled a folded paper from the file, a photocopy of an old, handwritten letter. I took it, my fingers trembling as I unfolded it. The writing was messy, rushed. "Lily, I know what you did. If you tell anyone, I'll make sure he pays for it too. D." I stared at it. D. You think that was Daniel? Margaret shook her head. At first, I thought it was her old foster brother. His name started with D too. But now, after hearing she's marrying your son, she looked at me with those old, knowing eyes. I'm not sure anymore. I stepped back, my mind reeling. Was it possible? Could Daniel, my son, my boy, have been part of whatever happened to her? No, I couldn't believe that. Daniel was kind, maybe distant now, but he was never cruel. Still, that letter, that single initial, it gnawed at me. I stared at the folder again. "Is that all?" "No," she said. "There's one more thing." After Lily disappeared, I got a call from a private hospital 2 towns over. They said a teenage girl matching her description had checked in under a fake name. She was pregnant. My knees nearly gave out. Pregnant. Margaret nodded slowly. She gave birth a few months later and left without the child. I felt sick. What happened to the baby? It was adopted immediately. Closed record. I never found out who took the child. Her eyes softened. Robert, if she's marrying Daniel, and that letter truly came from him, you need to find out the truth before they take their vows. I stared down at the dusty file, my heart pounding in my ears. Margaret, I said hoarsely, where can I find her records? Real ones. Not what's in the system. She hesitated. The county archive. But Robert, be careful. Some people don't want those files open. Let them stop me, I muttered. I turned and walked out before she could stop me. The county records office was a gray brick building that smelled of mildew and old secrets. The clerk, a young woman with red glasses, barely looked up when I approached. "Can I help you?" "I need to access adoption and foster records from 2005, I said. "Are you a legal guardian or relative?" I slid the folder across the counter. "I'm the man who housed her, and now my son's marrying her. That enough reason for you?" She blinked, unsure how to respond. Then, perhaps seeing the desperation in my face, she sighed. "Give me a minute." After a few minutes of typing, she handed me a small envelope. This was marked restricted. "You didn't get it from me." I nodded, heart pounding as I stepped outside. Inside the envelope was a birth certificate. Mother Lily Hawthorne, father, blank, child male, date of birth October 16, 2005. That's when I felt the world tilt beneath me. Daniel was born in April 2005. This baby was born 6 months later. 6 months after Lily left our home. No, it couldn't be. It couldn't. I sat on the bench, the papers shaking in my hands. Could my son, could Daniel be that baby's father? No, the timing didn't fit perfectly, but close enough to terrify me. If Lily's child was from that same time, and now she was marrying Daniel, then my chest tightened. The thought I'd been avoiding slammed into me full force. What if Lily's baby, the one she abandoned, was Daniel's sibling? And what if she didn't know? I drove home numb, my vision blurring. Everything I knew about my life, about Daniel, about Lily, was unraveling. When I reached my porch, I found an envelope wedged under the door. No name, no stamp, just my address written in red ink. Inside was a single photo. It showed Daniel and Lily together at a restaurant, smiling happy. But scrawled across the photo, in messy handwriting, were 5 words: "She knows what she did." My hands began to shake uncontrollably. Someone was watching them. Someone who wanted to stop this wedding, just like me, but not out of love, out of vengeance. And deep down, I could feel it. The past wasn't done with us. Not yet. As the sun set that evening, I made a promise to myself. Tomorrow, I'd go to Daniel's place, look him in the eyes, and finally ask him the question that had been eating me alive. "Do you even know who you're marrying?" I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the house, every ticking second felt like a countdown, not to my son's wedding, but to the truth waiting to tear it apart. By sunrise, I'd made my decision. No more secrets, no more whispers. I was going to face Daniel, my son, my blood, and ask him directly about the woman he was about to marry. The drive to the city felt longer than ever. As the road wound through the hills, memories came flooding back. Daniel's first bicycle, his first heartbreak, his laughter echoing through the garage as I taught him how to change a tire. How had we drifted so far from that? When I pulled up to his apartment building, the air felt heavy, like even the sky knew this day would change everything. I rang the doorbell once. No answer. Twice. Then the door opened and Daniel stood there, older, sharper around the edges, but still my boy. "Dad," he said, surprised. "What are you doing here?" "I needed to talk to you," I said. "It's important." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "If this is about the wedding," "It is," I cut in. "And it's about Lily." His eyes flickered. Just a moment. But I saw it, that hesitation, that flicker of unease. "Dad, please," he said, lowering his voice. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Harder. I snapped. "You told me not to come. You didn't even have the decency to tell me you were engaged. And now I find out the woman you're marrying has a past you haven't told me about." His jaw tightened. "You've been digging." "I had to," I said quietly. "Because I care. Because something about all this doesn't add up." He turned away, walking toward the window. "Lily doesn't like talking about her past. It's painful for her." "I know it is," I said. "I know more than you think." He froze. I took a step closer. "Does the name Margaret mean anything to you?" He turned slowly, eyes narrowing. "What are you getting at?" "I spoke to her," I said. "Your mother and I took Lily in years ago. You remember her, don't you, Daniel? She lived with us. She was just a girl back then." Daniel's face went pale. "Dad," he whispered. "Stop." "No," I said firmly. "You need to hear this. Lily disappeared back then under strange circumstances. And now she's back in your life. About to marry you. And someone is sending me warnings, telling me she's hiding something. So tell me, son, what is going on?" Daniel's voice broke as he spoke. "I love her, Dad. That's what's going on. I don't care about the past. I care about the woman she is now. Love doesn't erase lies," I said. He looked at me, eyes full of frustration. "You don't understand. She didn't choose what happened. She didn't choose the pain. She's been through hell, and she's finally trying to start over." My anger softened at the edge of his words. Then why didn't she tell me? Why did she keep her identity from me? She was afraid, he said. Afraid you'd hate her. She thought you blamed her for what happened back then. I frowned. Blamed her? For what? Daniel hesitated. Then he took a breath and said quietly, for Mom's death. The air left my lungs. What? I whispered. He turned away, shoulders trembling. Lily told me everything, he said. She said Mom died because of her. Because she ran away that night. Because Mom went looking for her in that storm. The memory hit me like a truck. The rain. The headlights. Clara's car veering off the road. The police saying she must have been distracted, looking for someone. That someone had been Lily. I'd just never known it. I sank into a chair, the weight of years crashing down on me. All this time, I'd thought fate took Clara. But it wasn't fate. It was a chain of choices, starting with a scared girl and ending with a mother's desperate heart. She told you that? I asked, barely able to breathe. Daniel nodded. She said she's been living with that guilt ever since. When we reconnected by chance a few years ago, she didn't even recognize me at first. But when she realized who I was, she tried to disappear again. I made her stay. I told her she didn't have to keep running from the past anymore. I covered my face, my chest tight. So that's what this was. Not revenge, not deceit, guilt. Lily wasn't trying to hurt anyone. She was trying to heal. But then who sent those letters? Who was warning me to stop the wedding? Daniel, I said slowly. Has Lily mentioned anyone contacting her? Any threats? He frowned. Why? Because someone's been watching you, I said. They sent me a photo of you too, with a message she knows what she did. His face drained of color. She got one too, he said after a moment. Same message. She thought it was just spam. But maybe not. We sat there in silence for a long moment. Two men caught between the past and a future neither of us understood. Finally I stood. Son, I need to meet her. Before you marry her, I need to look her in the eyes and know this is right. Daniel hesitated, then nodded. She's at her apartment. I'll call her. The drive there was quiet. Daniel sat beside me, staring out the window like a boy again, lost in thought. When we arrived, Lily was waiting outside, and when she saw me, she froze. For a moment, neither of us spoke, just silence, heavy, trembling silence between two ghosts of the same memory. Mr. Miller, she said softly. It's been a long time. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were swimming with guilt. I suppose you know everything now, she added quietly. Not everything, I said, but enough to know you've been carrying more pain than anyone should. The tears welled in her eyes. I never meant to hurt you or Daniel. I ran because I couldn't live with what happened. Your wife was the kindest person I'd ever met. And because of me, I shook my head. No, Lily, you didn't cause that storm. You didn't make her drive out there. You were a child. She did what any mother would have done. She started crying. You don't understand. I got that letter that night. The one from my old foster home. It said if I didn't come back, they'd tell everyone lies about me. I thought I could fix it before anyone got hurt, but she followed me. She found me on the road and, her words broke into sobs. Daniel pulled her close, his eyes glassy. I stepped back, my own throat tight. I'd come here ready to confront a liar, maybe even a manipulator. But instead, I found a broken heart trying to make peace. And then, as if the universe wanted to twist the knife one last time, my phone buzzed. Another message, no number. Just one sentence. She's lying again. My stomach dropped. Whoever was sending these wasn't finished. And something told me. The real truth hadn't surfaced yet. The message glowed on my phone screen like a threat carved into glass. She's lying again. A no name, no number, just those 3 words. For a long moment, I stood there frozen, watching Lily cry softly into Daniel's shoulder. The sound of her sobs mingled with the faint hum of the city outside. And that message pulsed in my mind like a heartbeat I couldn't silence. Who was sending them? And what truth were they so desperate for me to uncover? I slipped the phone into my pocket and forced my voice steady. Daniel, Lily, I said. I think it's best if I go for now. You two need space. I just needed to see you both, face to face. Daniel nodded cautiously. Lily didn't speak. She just looked at me with eyes full of guilt and fear, like she already knew something else was coming. I walked back to the car in silence, but every step felt heavier. The wind had picked up, carrying with it that same chill I'd felt the night Clara died. It wasn't just grief anymore. It was a warning. That night, I sat in my old study, the same one where Clara used to pay bills and plan birthdays, and spread out everything I had on the table, the printed messages, the photo of Daniel and Lily from the unknown sender, an old folder of police reports from the night of Clara's accident. The accident had been ruled a tragedy, not a crime. But something about the timing had never sat right with me. The car had swerved off a bridge she'd driven across 100 times. There were no skid marks, no sign she'd tried to stop, and yet her hands had been gripping the wheel tight when they found her, like she'd seen something, or someone. I flipped through the pages, my breath catching when I noticed something I'd never paid attention to before. A witness name, almost faded. Saw a local man's truck parked near the bridge registered to J. Clark, a John Clark. That name stabbed through the fog of my memory. John had been one of my old business partners, or rather, a man I once called a friend. He and I had a falling out years before the accident. He'd accused me of stealing a contract, claimed I'd ruined his life. We hadn't spoken since. Could he be the one sending these messages? After all these years, the next morning I drove out to the edge of town, to the old mechanic's yard John used to own. The place looked abandoned now, but I saw faint tire tracks in the dirt. Someone had been there recently. As I stepped out of the car, an old voice called from behind the rusted fence. "Didn't think I'd ever see you here again, Miller." There he was, John Clark. Older, thinner, face weathered by years of bitterness. He leaned against the gate with that same smug half-smile I used to hate. "I heard your boy's getting married," he said. "Congratulations." "I didn't come here for small talk," I said. "You sent those messages, didn't you?" His eyes glinted. "What messages?" "Don't play dumb. She's lying again." "That was you, wasn't it?" He chuckled, a low, cruel sound. "Still jumping to conclusions, huh? Just like the old days." "What do you want, John?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The truth. The one you buried with your wife." I stiffened. "What are you talking about?" He looked me dead in the eyes. "That girl your son's marrying, Lily. You think she's innocent. She's the daughter of the man who cost me everything." I froze. "What?" He nodded slowly. "Her father worked for me. He was my accountant, the one who cooked the books, the one who made it look like I stole the money. You testified against me, remember? You didn't even let me explain. I lost my business, my home, my wife. And while you and your perfect little family kept living your perfect life, I was scraping by." My throat tightened. "I didn't know." "Of course you didn't," he sneered. "You never cared to look. But that girl, she knows exactly who you are. And now she's marrying your son. You really think that's a coincidence?" The world seemed to tilt. Could that be true? Had Lily sought out Daniel as revenge for something her father's enemies had done? I shook my head. No, Lily didn't even recognize me when we met again. He smiled thinly. "That's what she wants you to believe." I felt my pulse in my ears. "You're lying." He shrugged. "Maybe. But ask yourself something, Miller. Why'd she change her last name? Why'd she hide who she was for so long?" I didn't have an answer. I turned and left without another word. His voice followed me like poison in the air. You can't outrun the truth forever. That night I sat in my car outside Daniel's place again, gripping the steering wheel. Part of me wanted to burst in, demand answers, stop the wedding before something worse happened. But another part of me, the father part, wanted to believe my son had found peace. Then my phone buzzed again. A new message. "Check the bridge. No name. No number." Just that. I didn't think. I just drove. The bridge where Clara had died was quiet now, wrapped in mist. The streetlights flickered, reflecting off the water below. I stepped out of the car, the wind whipping through my coat. My flashlight scanned the railing, and then I saw a bouquet of wilted lilies tied to the post. A note beneath them. "For Clara. I'm sorry." I picked it up, my heart pounding. The handwriting, delicate, precise, was unmistakable. Lilies. The wind howled over the bridge as I held the note in my trembling hands. "For Clara. I'm sorry." Even after all these years, Clara's name still felt sacred, something that shouldn't be written by anyone but her own family. But here it was, scrawled in Lily's handwriting, pressed against a bouquet of dying lilies, left at the very place where my wife had taken her last breath. For a moment, I couldn't move. The world seemed to fade until there was only the sound of the river beneath and the echo of that night, The screech of tires, the crash, the silence after. I whispered into the fog, "What are you hiding, Lily?" The next morning, I went to see her. Daniel wasn't home. Maybe at work or running wedding errands. But Lily opened the door the moment I knocked, like she'd been expecting me. She looked pale, her eyes swollen as if she hadn't slept. "Mr. Miller?" she said softly, voice trembling. "You found it, didn't you?" I didn't answer right away. I stepped inside, the air heavy with the smell of coffee and something else, fear. "I did," I said finally. "The note, on the bridge." But tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't look away. "I left it there every year, on the same date." "Why?" I asked. "Why would you do that?" "Lily?" "Because," she swallowed hard, "because it's my fault. At least part of it." I waited in silence. She sat down, hands clasped tightly. "You know my father was accused of embezzlement, right? That he disappeared after everything fell apart." I nodded slowly. "John Clark told me some of it." Her face twisted with pain. "Then he lied, just like he's always done." She reached for a small wooden box on the coffee table and opened it. Inside were old photographs, newspaper clippings, and a few letters. She handed one to me, yellowed with age, but still legible. It was from her father. "Lily, if you ever read this, know that I didn't steal that money. I was set up. I tried to expose the truth, but they threatened you. I had to disappear. I'm sorry for everything." I looked up. "He wrote this to you." She nodded. "The night before your wife died." My stomach dropped. "What does that have to do with Clara?" "I sent a letter that night," Lily said quietly. "I was scared. Someone had broken into our house, looking for my father's documents. I thought they'd hurt me. I ran to the only person I trusted, your wife. I left her a note asking her to meet me at the bridge." Her voice broke. She came. But by the time I got there, her car was all ready. She couldn't finish. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I sat there in stunned silence, the pieces finally beginning to fall into place. The letter, the storm, Clara's sudden decision to drive out that night. She'd gone to save Lily, and it had cost her everything. I took a deep breath, my voice shaking. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I tried," she whispered. "I even came to your house months later. But when I saw the way you looked at me, the grief, the anger, I knew you blamed me. So I ran again. I closed my eyes. She wasn't wrong. Back then, I was so consumed by loss that I would have blamed anyone. But now, sitting across from her, I didn't see guilt. I saw a woman who had been living with a wound she never deserved. Still one question remained. "Lily?" I said, lowering my voice. "Someone's been sending me messages. Someone who seems to know everything. They sent me that photo of you and Daniel, and they told me you were lying." She looked confused. "Messages? From who?" "I thought it was John Clark," I said. "But I'm not sure anymore." She frowned, thinking hard. "Mr. Miller, before the first message came, did anyone contact you about the wedding? Anyone unusual?" I hesitated. "Just one person. The florist. She said there was a mix-up with the order." Lily's face went pale. "That's not possible. I never ordered flowers in my name." We looked at each other, realization dawning. "Then whoever's been sending these messages," I said slowly, "was close enough to know about the wedding plans." Her lips trembled. "You mean someone we both know?" I nodded grimly. That night I couldn't stop thinking about it. The messages, the photo, the flowers. Someone had access to both my address and Daniel's. Someone who wanted me to doubt Lily. Someone who benefited from destroying my family's peace. And then it hit me. I picked up the phone and called Daniel. "Son, where did you meet Lily again?" "At a charity event," he said. "Why? Who introduced you to?" He hesitated. "A friend of hers said her name was Melissa." Melissa. That name rang in my mind like a bell. I'd seen it once before, at the bottom of a letterhead on one of John Clark's old companies. I hung up and opened my laptop, searching the name. And there she was, Melissa Clark, John's daughter. The pieces locked together like a cruel puzzle. Melissa had been the one feeding the lies. She'd sent the letters. She'd sent the photo. She wanted revenge. Not for what Lily or Daniel did, but for what I did to her father decades ago. And she'd used Lily's name, her trauma, her guilt, all of it, to twist the knife. The next morning, I drove back to Lily's place. When I told her what I'd found, she went completely still. "Melissa, I knew her," she said quietly. She used to visit my father's office. She always hated me, said I ruined their lives by being the wrong daughter. Then she's the one behind all this, I said. Not you. Not me. She wanted to destroy our families from both sides. Lily covered her mouth, shaking. Daniel doesn't know any of this. Then we tell him. Together. That evening, when Daniel came home, we sat him down. The truth, every painful, twisted piece of it, came spilling out. At first, he didn't believe it. Then I showed him the messages, the photos, the old business documents. Finally, Lily handed him her father's letter. By the time we finished, Daniel's eyes were wet with tears. I can't believe she did this, he whispered. Melissa was at our engagement party. She smiled, hugged Lily all while planning this. She wanted to make sure none of us ever healed. I said softly, but she failed. Because the truth came out, and because you two still have a chance to build something real. Lily reached for his hand, and for the first time since all this began, I saw peace in her eyes. She wasn't hiding anymore, and I wasn't running from the past. Later that night, after I got home, my phone buzzed again. Another message. You can forgive her. But can you forgive yourself? No number. No name. I stared at the screen for a long time, and then, for the first time in years, I smiled sadly. Maybe I can? I whispered. Maybe I finally can. The morning of the wedding arrived like a sunrise I didn't think I'd ever see. For weeks, I dreaded this day, afraid it would expose every scar, reopen every wound. But as I stood before the mirror adjusting my tie, something felt different, lighter. Maybe it was the quiet. Maybe it was the memory of Clara's smile that seemed to follow me, soft, forgiving, proud. For the first time in years, I felt her beside me. The church sat on the edge of the town, wrapped in ivy and morning light. When I stepped inside, guests were already seated, the hum of laughter and whispers filling the air. People turned as I entered, some surprised to see me there after all the rumors that I wouldn't come. But I had promised Daniel I'd be there, and I'd made peace with Lily. Whatever ghosts we carried, today was about letting them rest. As I took my seat near the front, Daniel walked up, straightening his cuffs nervously. Dad, he said softly, I'm glad you came. I smiled. You're my son. Of course I came. He exhaled shakily like a boy again. You think Mom would be proud? I looked at him. My grown son standing in the same church where Clara and I had said our vows decades ago. She already is, I said. She's the reason we're all here. Then the music began. The doors opened. And there she was, Lily, dressed in white, walking slowly down the aisle, sunlight catching the tears in her eyes. Every step she took was forgiveness in motion. For herself, for Clara, for all of us. When she reached Daniel, their hands met, trembling, but strong. For a moment, I saw not two people haunted by the past, but two souls choosing to rebuild what life had broken. The ceremony began. Each vow was simple, but heavy with meaning. Promises to be honest, to heal, to never run again. When the priest asked if anyone objected, the silence that followed wasn't tense. It was peaceful. Like even the world had agreed it was time to move on. After the ceremony, I stepped outside for air. The sun was warm, the air crisp. I looked toward the sky and whispered, We did it, Clara. They're free now. And for just a moment, I swear I felt a hand on my shoulder, gentle, familiar, gone. But peace never lasts forever. As I walked back toward the reception hall, a figure stood by the gate. A woman, dressed in black. At first, I thought it was a guest. Then she turned, and my heart nearly stopped. Melissa Clark. The woman who had tried to destroy us all. She looked different now. Thinner, eyes sunken with guilt rather than anger. In her hands, she held a small envelope. I came to say goodbye, she said quietly. And to give you this, I hesitated before taking it. What is it? Proof, she said. That my father lied. About everything. About Lily's father, about the money, about you. My chest tightened. Why now? She looked down, voice breaking. Because I finally realized revenge doesn't heal anything. It just passes the pain to someone else. Tears filled her eyes. I wanted you to hurt like my family did. But seeing them together in there, your son and Lily, I knew I couldn't be that person anymore. Then she turned to leave. Melissa. I started, but she shook her head. Tell Lily I'm sorry, she said softly. And tell her I hope she forgives me someday. She disappeared into the sunlight before I could say another word. Inside the envelope were documents. bank records, letters, even a signed confession. All proving what Lily's father had claimed long ago: he had been innocent. The real thief had been John Clark, the man I once thought was the victim, the man who poisoned our lives with lies. My knees nearly gave out under the weight of it. So many years lost, so much pain built on false blame. But somehow I didn't feel anger anymore, just release. I whispered to myself, "It's over." That night, during the wedding dinner, Daniel raised his glass. "To new beginnings," he said, "and to those who never stop believing in love." Everyone clapped. Laughter filled the room. But when he turned to me, his eyes shining, and said, "And to my father, for teaching me that forgiveness isn't weakness," I couldn't hold back my tears, because in that moment I realized the truth. I hadn't come to witness their wedding. I'd come to witness my own redemption. The wedding was over, but the laughter lingered long after the music stopped. I stayed behind to help the staff stack chairs and gather the last of the flowers. Somewhere outside, Daniel and Lily were taking photos under the old oak tree, their laughter echoing like distant bells. I watched them through the window. Two lives once broken by the same past, now mending together like pieces of stained glass. The light shining through them was softer, but more beautiful for its cracks. That's what Clara used to say. "Love doesn't stay perfect, Henry. It stays real." For years I didn't understand what she meant. Now I did. As I was about to leave, the venue manager handed me a small parcel. "Someone left this for you, sir," she said. Said it was important. It was wrapped in simple brown paper, my name written across the front in careful handwriting, the kind of writing you recognize instantly, even after decades. Clara's. My hands trembled as I tore it open. Inside was a single envelope, yellowed slightly, sealed with wax. On the back, in her old looping script, "For Henry. When you're ready to forgive." My throat closed. I sank into a chair before my knees gave out. Inside the envelope was a folded letter, faintly scented with her favorite lilac perfume. I unfolded it slowly, and her words stared back at me, her voice coming alive through the ink. "My dearest Henry, if you're reading this, then it means you've carried the pain longer than I ever wanted you to. I know how you loved me, fiercely, completely. But, my love, grief can become a prison when we don't let go. The night I left, I wasn't chasing danger. I was following my heart, that girl, Lily. She needed someone. She reminded me of Daniel when he was little, frightened, lost, but full of light waiting to be seen. I couldn't turn away from her. I don't regret going to her. I only regret not telling you why. If you've found her again, if she's part of your life, then please, don't hate her. She was never my mistake. She was my last act of love. And you, Henry, you were my first. I hope you forgive her. And I hope one day you forgive yourself too." With all my heart, Clara. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. For so long, I'd blamed Lily. Then I'd blamed myself. But in the end, Clara had already forgiven both of us. Long before we ever knew we needed it. I folded the letter gently and pressed it to my chest. Outside, I could hear Daniel and Lily calling for me, their voices carrying through the cool evening air. I stepped out to join them. The sky was streaked with gold and rose, the kind of sunset Clara used to love watching from our porch. Daniel ran up and threw an arm around my shoulders. "Dade, you should have seen Lily's dance moves." I laughed, a real laugh, one that didn't hurt anymore. I can imagine. Lily walked over, her smile hesitant but hopeful. "Mr. Henry, are we okay?" I looked at her, this woman who had carried so much of my wife's last act of love, and nodded. "We're more than okay," I said softly. "We're family." Tears welled in her eyes. She stepped forward and hugged me, gently, like she knew she was touching something fragile but sacred. And maybe she was. Later that night, when everyone had gone home, I visited the bridge one last time. The lilies Lily had left were still there, but I added something beside them. Clara's letter, wrapped in a ribbon. I whispered into the wind, "She's safe now." They both are. Then I closed my eyes and let the sound of the river carry my words away. For the first time since Clara's death, I didn't feel alone. I felt her presence, not haunting me, but guiding me. And in the reflection of the moon on the water, I thought I saw her smiling back. Maybe forgiveness isn't something we give once. Maybe it's something we live, one choice at a time. That night, as I drove home, I passed Daniel and Lily's car. They were heading out for their honeymoon, hands intertwined, faces glowing with the kind of hope that only comes from surviving heartbreak. I smiled, because love, I realize, isn't about avoiding pain. It's about finding meaning in it. Epilogue. Oni Arletar. A year later, I sat on the porch of the house Clara and I built together. Daniel and Lily's baby, my first grandchild, was asleep inside. Her name, Clara Grace. When I hold her, I feel everything I lost and everything I found again, in one tiny heartbeat. Sometimes the past doesn't need to be forgotten to heal. It just needs to be understood. And as the sun set over the fields, I whispered a quiet prayer of gratitude for second chances, for truth, for forgiveness, and for love that never really dies. THEND.